This is the Observer of Sunday, the 15th of August, 2021. And this heading, On Death Row with Geronimo and an Army of Angels at his side. Now this headline is less kind of hostile and less supporting of the murder plot than Saturday's stupid headline. And this idiot boy, Matt Chorley, complete, absolute moron. Although he has got the headline, he is actually taking the stupid, poisonous, criminal line that if other animals are murdered, then so must the perfectly healthy Geronimo. And the caption to the picture, main picture of Geronimo in the piece on page 15 of the Observer is wrong. It says left, Geronimo, the alpaca, is said to be slaughtered after testing positive for bovine TB. PA, that's a lie. That is an absolute lie. Geronimo did not test positive. So when we say that this program, this KhoodeelaarTV television channel, does world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, we say the world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, meaning that no known platform online, on the internet, or on satellite, or on terrestrial has been broadcasting anything comparable to what we have been broadcasting, number one. Number two, nothing remotely like what we have been broadcasting. And what do I mean by what we have been broadcasting? We mean by what we have been broadcasting that the facts, the evidence, and the science and the law, all of these we have regularly and extensively been investigating about each and every item that we have been highlighting and featuring. Over the last 2 weeks or so, we have been concentrating on Geronimo. We have been concentrating on Geronimo, the alpaca itself, and also on the treatment by the UK government, fronted by Boris Johnson. The treatment of Geronimo's, we call her his human mom, because he has had two moms. One is Leonie Walker in New Zealand, where he was bred by Leonie Walker and her husband, Neville Walker. And she has told the Times newspaper, London Times newspaper, that she was very sorry for him to leave. Now, Geronimo left New Zealand and his family after the woman called Helen MacDonald bought him. Now, Helen MacDonald is his second mom, because for 4 years now since Geronimo arrived at her farm in Gloucester in England, she has been shielding him, defending him, protecting him, arguing for him. And the reason why she has been doing all of that is because she, being a trained veterinary nurse, knows about the health and well-being and welfare of animals, and she most certainly knows about Geronimo. Because Geronimo must be the only one of our herd or only one of our family that she has had to defend in the way that she has been caused to defend him. Now we are going to discuss this one and also discuss the writer of this piece in the Observer. What's his name? Andrew Anthony. Because it matters what motivates these people who write these articles. Now, compared to some of the other pieces in Fleet Street organs, including the stupid Aberdeen Free Press, which gave a very suspicious, creepy kind of space to a propagandist, anti-Muslim propagandist during the week to attack Geronimo and to attack the sincerity and the honesty and the morality of those who are supporting Geronimo. Now, as I said before, the diagnosis that we carry out of the Fleet Street papers and in context the behavior, the role and the agenda followed by the BBC, Sky News, ITV, Channel 4 News, and other so-called mainstream outlets, and outlets that actually support the line followed by Fleet Street. In Gloucester, this stupid so-called local outlet called Gloucester Live. Gloucester Live can easily be on the facts and the contents of its publication in the last kind of 24 hours, 48 hours, can be described as Gloucester Lies. Although it is called Gloucester, it's not actually investigated the evidence around the Boris Johnson fronted cabal's claim that Geronimo must be murdered. Let's look at the piece in the Scottish title, Aberdeen. The Aberdeen Free Press is, in this context, in relation to the piece that it has published against Geronimo and against the people supporting, correctly, rightly, lawfully, legally, ethically, morally, compassionately supporting and defending Geronimo. The Aberdeen Free Press is in the gutters of stupidity, ignorance, unprofessionalism, and complete contemptible stupidity. Because it says that an 8-year-old Geronimo, effectively it says that an 8-year-old Geronimo should not be supported. If an 8-year-old boy in Pakistan was not supported by the same people or people of similar kind of disposition and outlook and background and commitment and care and concern. How stupid is that? Now, This is 15th of August. So many things come into the frame on the 15th of August. Because yesterday was 14th of August, 14th of August 1947, when the British Empire, not far from Afghanistan, quote, left the subcontinent. And 14th of August is just by few hours preceded the similar thing happening to India. The 14th of August is linked with the independence from the British Empire, the independence of the state of Pakistan, and the 15th of August is the date linked to the independence of the Republic of India, 1947. And this is August, 15th of August, when the entirety of the British political establishment is now kind of doing the propaganda about Afghanistan. Doing the propaganda about Afghanistan as evident in the Mail on Sunday. And let's see what they're saying. And we shall come to the Sunday Times in a minute. Let's see what the Mail on Sunday is saying. Okay, so the Mail on Sunday on pages 20 and 21 is saying that the British ambassador in Kabul, in Afghanistan, is being saved by the special SOS. And then there is a piece about the Freedom Day. In the editorial, and the page 23, there is a piece about women in Afghanistan. So that is, the Mail on Sunday is actually focusing less on Afghanistan than the Sunday Express, which is saying plainly, killing spree, a terror attack. And of course, the piece about the ambassador, British ambassador in Kabul. The Sunday Times actually does main thing is about about China and how the Chinese policy to take over the world was behind the creation, as they are claiming, the spread of the pandemic throughout the world. And the same envoy, the Afghan capital Kabul-based British ambassador, is the focus of the anxiety about getting him safely out of there. That's the Sunday Telegraph. And the Daily Star on Sunday has got a typically stupid, infantile, idiotic article about drinking, etc. It's not even worth mentioning, but that's the front page of this Star on Sunday. I'll give item by item analysis as to factual analysis as to why I call this stupid and idiotic and how Fleet Street is a disaster in terms of society, in terms of news, in terms of ethics, and in terms of morality. Now, what they're doing on the main pages, well, page 2, they're talking about the BBC's Moscow or Russia correspondent that has been told that she has to leave by the end of the month, whenever that, or end of September. Sarah Rainsford. And Sarah Rainsford has been living in Russia for decades. And it seems, according to the Spiel, she considers Russia as a home, not as a posting for journalism. And the editorial in the Daily Star on Sunday is not really relevant, despite the fact that these 2 pages, 8 and 9, are fully stuffed with promotion for kind of sub-pornographic items, and a small piece about the mental slave Clive Myrie. The mental slave Clive Myrie says that he has been sent death threats by trolls. We call him mental slave because he is completely, only in his mannerism is different from Trevor Terrible P-Lips. His contemptuous Clive Myrie of the viewers, he calls the viewers, "Hi there." he doesn't greet them properly with respect, like the corrupt and contemptible weather presenter, BBC's weather presenter. And what Mairi also does is patronize the entirety of the African and Asian continents. So it's ironic that despite his voluntary stooging behavior, the racist trolls have not accepted him, where he wanted to be accepted as a kind of superior to the African and Asian people. And on page 10 of the Mail on Sunday, there is a piece about, it claims to be an exclusive piece. It says, Paras face battle with the Taliban. And it says, British troops rescuing UK nationals from Afghanistan could be drawn into battle with the Taliban. What a stupid, stupid paragraph that is. Of course there would be. The total absolute rubbish that the Fleet Street papers stuff the pages with is only to be suffered, to be believed. The Sun, for example, is one of the Fleet Street papers that is running this one. Now, let's say that this is the status quo. By status quo, I mean that the UK state, its various agencies, apparatus, are failing UK citizens when it comes to safety, like this one. Now, not only are the police admitting that they didn't check this mass murderers' activities on the internet, elsewhere it is being said today that this mass murderer had been kind of obsessed with the internet and pornography since at least the age of 11. And that he has been known to have attacked innocent people over the years, and that he had his gun returned to him even after serious violence was linked with his behavior, sin is in his behavior, and the gun was taken away from him. Now, if the gun was taken away from him, then why was he given the gun back only a month ago? This is not just the feature of this particular kind of mass murderer who actually was a dedicated follower and supporter of Donald Trump, something that the British papers are hiding. They're not mentioning that, but that is what he has been. So what they're doing in unpicking the history of this mass murderer, Donald Trump supporter, they are unintentionally, I suppose, admitting that the various parts of the United Kingdom state is letting down the citizens, the people. What kind of pattern is there in that kind of admission, in that kind of fact? That pattern is that the United Kingdom is being not served by the United Kingdom government. So what good is it to the victims that people are paying tributes to them? Would it not be preferable not to have them as victims and rather have them alive today? Where do you begin to express the sheer sadness and devastation and horror at such loss? Now, supposing there's someone with wisdom and knowledge and sufficient awareness of the likelihood of this mass murder had warned the police, the social services in the local council that this would happen or that could happen, or it could be happening, and there should have been, and they should take action. Suppose somebody said that to the local council in Plymouth. Would the Plymouth council, whose leader has been all over the place, staging his expressions of solidarity and sorrow and regret, would the leader of the Conservative council in Plymouth have listened to such warning? And would he, because it is a he, would he have ordered the social services to take urgent, serious action to prevent this massacre? Would he have done that? Now, as I speak, I don't know what communications the leader of the Plymouth Council was sent, and who sent the Plymouth Council the details of the behavior of this potential mass murderer who was a known criminal, what action that he took, and who sent the warnings to the Plymouth Council. And so the Sun on Sunday has got from page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, and page 7. 7 pages on the Sun on Sunday. And I can safely say that there is no real question about the dysfunctioning government, dysfunctioning crime agencies, dysfunctioning councils. Think about that. They're saying that people in the area affected by the mass murder, the people are so scared that they're not leaving their homes. And obviously the assumption, the suggestion is that none of the ordinary people ever suspected, well, none except the ones that were directly attacked by him. So the majority of the people were never in fear about their own kind of neighborhood, their own area, until this happened. Extrapolate, that is, multiply this and apply it across the rest of England. And you could say the same thing. And you could also say that the press, the media, like the Sun on Sunday, are to blame as well. They may not think that they are to blame, but they are to blame. I'll go through the key points why they are to blame. The Sun on Sunday, or the Sun, or the Times, or the Telegraph, or the Daily Mirror, or the Express, or the Daily Star, none of them are known on the records to give any credence to people having serious concern about their tendencies evident in the behavior of would-be massacres, would-be mass murderers like the Plymouth one. Fleet Street has no tradition, no place. The Guardian had a temporary place for extensive comments, but it has unwisely, foolishly removed the comments. So there is nothing in the Fleet Street papers really for publishing proper comments and fact-based informed opinion about dangers and threats that society, communities face from criminals who are not being actually monitored by their local councils, which is the central part, or one of the two central parts of the safeguarding the society, safeguarding the community duties, let's say. One is the so-called social service, adult and child social services, and the other is, of course, the police. Newspapers don't cover the huge absence of policing, not just the huge absence of police from the streets, but huge absence of policing, as is regularly now admitted, is happening. That is, with the police dropping most of the cases that are filed and lodged with them about criminal behavior, crimes. And there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing in the so-called elected local democracies. Well, in a case like the Plymouth one, obviously the temporary focus is on Plymouth Council. If there is a focus, I am putting the Plymouth Council in the frame, not the newspapers, because none of the headlines has yet focused on the role played by the Plymouth Council in allowing this mass murderer to fester for so long, get primed in his own far-right fascistic, murderous kind of preparation. Think about that. Now, if something like this happens in another place, let's say in a London borough, I mean, all kinds of expressions of outrage would be published. But not now. And if you lower the kind of comparison a bit and say it's not life-threatening, but it's welfare-threatening, well-being threatening, and say that there is a lot of corruption in the councils, the papers are not interested. As they have shown in the case of, we said, a bogus trial, bogus from both sides, if you like, bogus trial on housing fraud, the trial of Afsana Begum. The newspapers completely dropped interest in the actual issue, which is the housing fraud, which is the housing crisis, not who was tried, so-called, but why so many thousands of people are homeless in Tower Hamlets. effectively homeless, because the fact that nearly 30,000 people are in need of housing as registered and as known to the local council shows that these people are not living in suitable accommodation. But the newspapers don't want to know. And imagine how many criminals are being born and bred in those unfit for human habitation accommodations. So there is a propaganda for Kerry Simmons. Kerry Simmons was urged to tell Johnson not to go ahead with the murder plot against Geronimo, but she has not spoken. Yet this weekend's papers are full of overhyped promotion of the same Kerry Simmons, as part of the propaganda for the Johnson regime, asking women to get vaccinated. If Dominic Cummings' account of Kerry Simmons' hold on Boris Johnson is correct, factual that is, then she would be texting Boris Johnson with all kinds of policy advice. It is impossible to think that she has not heard of the plea to her for supporters of Geronimo. What is the mystery behind the silence of Kerry Simmons about Geronimo and her overstated hype as a campaigner for pregnant women to get vaccinated? How sound and scientific is it that she is reportedly saying that she has had more than one vaccine and she has had no side effects? I mean, how translatable is that to other people whom she is targeting to get vaccinated? Whatever it is, Kerry Simmons, in her silence about Geronimo, is proving that the claim that she is a caring person about the environment, about animals, that is exaggerated or without foundation. If she cared about the animal welfare, she would be featuring all over the place as being concerned about the welfare of Geronimo. Why? Because if a perfectly healthy Geronimo is murdered, then there is nothing after that. There is no argument after that about any case for the murderers. Now, going back to the case of Virginia Roberts, who is now known as Virginia Jeffrey. The Jeffrey spelling is a bit unique, to say the least. There is a man who is aged 71 and who worked for Jeffrey Epstein, as they're describing as Jeffrey Epstein's telephone technical person, without telling what that job entailed. And he's quoted as saying on page 19 of the Sun on Sunday, "I'll swear an oath I caught Andrew groping Virginia. That's the piece on page 19 of the Mail on Sunday. Now let's look at this impact about Geronimo. I mean, he is the son of the reigning monarch. And he's now been accused of raping Virginia. Raping Virginia and forcing her to have sex with him in 3 locations. And it has been reported in the last 48 hours that his victim or victims were put in a deadly position. Literally, they feared that they would be murdered if they didn't allow Andrew to rape them. You could not get a more serious accusation. Now, how is it that the newspapers are only running this story about witnesses in America, accusers in America? And the answer is that Fleet Street is not doing its duties. It's not investigating. It's not following up. And it's not upholding the requirements of transparency, disclosure, and respect by the government, by the monarchy, by the royal family. Now we've got, this one is this one costs £2.10. It's the Sunday Post, and this is the details of the Sunday Post. We have done that before, but let's say where it is based. The Sunday Post claims that it is committed to journalism of the highest standards, producing their newspaper with accuracy, honesty, and fairness. Their journalists adhere to the Society of Editors Code of Practice, administered by the Independent Press Standards Organization, IPSO. It is their policy to publish clarifications and correctness as quickly as possible. And they're based in Craighall Road, Glasgow, Scotland. So this is not based in England, but they are based in Scotland. But let's see what they say in the story about Grenfell Tower massacre. And they got a picture of a father who definitely is a Indian origin person, aged 39, who lives in Glasgow with his wife Monica and their 2 sons, Kian, 5, and Adve, 8. And the headline is, this is under news special, and it says, after Grenfell, 4 years on, the family is still living in fear of inferno. Now, he says that more than 4 years after the Grenfell disaster, well, the piece says, not he, the piece, the news special on the Sunday Post. More than 4 years after the Grenfell disaster, thousands of Scots continue to live in flats that are potentially deadly cladding, with work only now beginning to assess the scale of the risk we can reveal. The danger of wrapping flats in combustible cladding was exposed in June 2017 when the fire raced up Grenfell Tower in London, killing 72 people. Amid calls for an urgent appraisal of how many homes may be affected, £100 million was given to the Scottish government to start assessing risk and making flats safe. However, a pilot scheme calculating the scale of the problem has only just started, and residents say tests have only started at one of the 25 buildings chosen for the trial. Ministers, that is Scottish ministers, admit around 700 high-rise buildings will need to be checked, and owners have criticized the speed of the response. Abhijit Khadwiri said the lack of urgency is alarming. I fear for the safety of my kids every day. I am beyond shock at how long this is taking. That is the story, the new special about Grenfell, but with the Scottish perspective. And the SNP regime in Scotland, fronted by Nicola Sturgeon, is obviously behaving with calamitous negligence and opportunism. Probably they have been using the £100 million for something else. Okay, so let's go back to the status quo that I talked about. And the status quo is that while the DEFRA murderers claim that they are concerned that their intention to murder the perfectly healthy Geronimo is linked to the DEFRA concern for the health of other animals. How can that be? How can murdering a healthy animal be anything to do with the health of other animals? And if DEFRA is really concerned about protecting the health of other animals, then why won't they, DEFRA, agree to scientifically checking if that is necessary? That is, if Geronimo is in need of being tampered with, interfered with, let alone being murdered, why won't DEFRA agree to a genuinely independent scientific examination, truthful examination of the truthful state of health of Geronimo? As I said, about the mass murder in Plymouth, about Afghanistan, and about the council's corruption, there is no evidence that the government bothers about the welfare and safety of other people or the citizens. It is completely irrational, unscientific, negligent, cruel, criminal, pure evil as the murderer, mass murderer of Plymouth has been described as being. They just want to murder Geronimo. They must stop. And this piece about Rory Stewart, who was a spy operating in Afghanistan at the beginning, they're saying, the headline they put about Rory Stewart on pages 8 and 9, this shameful betrayal. Rory Stewart on Biden, Britain, and the fall of Afghanistan. And this is the shameful betrayal. So if this is shameful betrayal, and they're letting millions of people be the victims of their betrayal, I mean, who will stop them continuing this betrayal? Anyone who actually believes in justice and fairness and stopping betrayal must today, without any delay, support the call to stop the murder plot against Geronimo and to improve the mechanism and to make sure that no innocent animal faces any such fate in the future. We shall go back to the Observer and we shall talk about Andrew Anthony. Now, Andrew Anthony, who has written this piece in the Observer, is not perhaps a typical Fleet Street journalist, because he has got a side issue as well. Side issue is that although he was a kind of typical journalist from the 1990s onwards in Fleet Street, he kind of decided to write one or two books. And in the book that got the most kind of comments from critics, Andrew Anthony came across as being somebody who admitted that he was wrong to support a liberal society, that the correct way forward for Britain would be to stop being a liberal society and start being a more racist society by abandoning multiculturalism. And Andrew Anthony actually wrongly cited 9/11. Now, as we speak today, 15th of August 2021, there is no evidence. There is no evidence to support the propaganda about 9/11. And I shall come to that in the next paragraph. Why? Because as the Afghanistan withdrawal thing is being slammed by the likes of, let's say in Britain, by the likes of the LBC presenter James O'Brien, as being already Joe Biden's biggest kind of failure. That shows that even the American president cannot get it right. So if this president cannot get it right, the previous president, George W. Bush, who got the American invasion in Afghanistan together with Tony Blair in place, could have got it wrong, and he did get it wrong. And this program is saying this. Contrary to the claims made by supporters of empire, imperialism, and occupation, the best way forward for humanity and states is to really work hard and try to live alongside one another. That's the briefest statement I can make of it. Of course, the full details would take millions of words, but that is what should happen. Now we'll go back to Afghanistan in a minute. Let's look at the picture, the biggest picture, printed on the page 1 by the Sunday, bribing Boris Graf. Now, she is not getting the picture because she has paid public heed to the pleas to help Geronimo. She's got this one as part of the propaganda for Boris Johnson, asking women to get the vaccine. She was asked by Geronimo's mom, Helen, to ask Johnson to withdraw the death warrant on Geronimo. And she has stayed silent. She has stayed silent, and this is serving as a two-pronged kind of purpose. One is saying to Dominic Cummings, who said that she is controlling Boris Johnson and she is the one who appointed Sajid Javid, the health secretary, after Matt Hancock was forced to resign. Now, if she indeed is doing what Dominic Cummings has been claiming she has been doing, and she has been painted as a person who cares for animals and the environment, then this is the one that she should be featuring in the weekend's news about Geronimo. Because there is no shortage of propaganda for vaccine. And Geronimo is the one that is faced with the murder threat against him. And Geronimo is the target of murder, not only in our word, but in the word that Stanley Johnson has used. Stanley Johnson is her father-in-law, actual biological father-in-law, because Stanley Johnson is Boris Johnson's father, biological father, social father, and in most cases, a promoter of Boris Johnson. So why is Carrie Simmons not in the news about Geronimo? I said that again because the Carrie Simmons has been in many of the profiles and many of the pieces promoting her, has been, quote, praised as being somebody concerned about animal welfare. This would be the most important, the most, if you like, widely known, highest profile issue about animal welfare that has come up in the public news since she became a public figure. She became associated with Boris Johnson. So why is Carrie Simons, why is she not in the news in speaking up for Geronimo? We shall be continuing in the next part